This is an instructional video for how to use the Degenerated Cells biosurvey for BICOM use. You begin by opening a test patient and then selecting biosurveys. If you're using the BICOM 2000, you'll select the Degenerated Cells biosurvey for BICOM 2000. If you're using the BICOM Optima, you will use the one that just says BICOM Degenerated Cells Cancer Biosurvey. As soon as you click on the biosurvey, it will begin. I'm going to be running this in what's called simulated mode so that it will run much quicker. For an actual patient, of course, you will have the hand cradle connected and selected. The first thing that comes up is a choice of which input vials to use. You need to have the Degenerated Cells test kit for this biosurvey. If you do not have it, at the end of it I will show you how you can create output frequencies of these vials for use in your therapy. The first selection is to choose the out-of-range DR, which stands for deviation ratio items, to add to the stress table. You want to choose either precursor or degeneration, not both. If all of the items are in range, just click OK. You can tell in range from out of range by the color. So red items are out of range, green items are in range. In this particular case, we're only going to choose precursor because it is the most out of range. We don't want to choose both precursor and degeneration, only one of the two. Then click Next. Your next choice is to choose the marker vials to add to the stress table. So these marker vials are also, they're used in detection but also in treatment, as you'll see later on in the biosurvey. Now, just because all of these are out of range does not mean that you need to select all of them. You want to select them based on your patient and which ones seem to make sense. You can also just choose a few of the top out-of-range marker vials. So in this case, because this is a fictitious scan, I'm just going to choose the top 5. If this were an actual patient and I knew that we were dealing with, say, a skin cancer, then I might choose one of these that are further down the line. But in this particular example, I'm just going to choose the top 5. Our next selection is the precursors and of the the unaffected tissues. And so we're going to select the highest positive DR. Now, being in range or out of range has nothing to do with the choice at this point. We want the highest positive DR, which indicates a biological preference. And this is going to be similar to a resonance response by tensor or a strong muscle test by kinesiology. So I could choose both of these if I so desired. In this case, I'm just going to select the highest positive DR. This again gives you another choice. These come pre-selected, and these are the marker cells that are going to be used in the BICOM therapy. Now, these are the ones that we've already selected, but if for some reason you want to, in this particular case, unselect some of these, you have that option. If you do want to use all of these in your therapy, these vials are then going to be copied to the balancer table. So you can leave it as is, or you can go back and uncheck one or more of these if you wish. Okay? So by default, they're all going to be pre-selected. You can unselect any of them. If you wish to use them in your therapy, just leave them all selected and click Next. Now it's going through and scanning the other BICOM therapies to be used for this patient. It's doing what's called a comparative rescan, which means it's taking those pre-selected therapies and checking them against the degenerated cell nosodes and organs and seeing how that all worked out for the patient. So the report has been generated, but let's just take a look real quick back at the Elite tab to see how well that worked. If it worked well, we should have all of the initially out of range marker vials and degenerative nosodes and contributing factors brought into range, or into green, into the circle. So we started with 80 stressors, and these include degenerative nosodes, negative emotions, predisposing stresses like geopathic stress, different organs, glands, or systems that may be impacted, so there's our 80 that started out of range or indicating stress, and how they're brought into range or decreased in stress by use of the BICOM therapies. And here's our balancers. Go back over to the reports. Now anytime you're using one of these biosurveys, the degenerated cells particularly, there's going to be a level of fear that may be generated by the results. So here in the instructions, I've tried to stress that this should not be a cause of alarm. This can be used as a health check on a regular basis, just to try to bring things back into balance before they become a true disease state. And it's also not a replacement for other diagnostic tests such as blood tests or imaging studies. So do not be alarmed by certain terms on this report. This is not considered a diagnosis of cancer. This is an energetic scan to see where certain stresses lie in the body, and most importantly, what we can do to help reduce those stresses and bring things back into a state of health or balance in the body. And these were the initial degenerated cell marker vials that we chose from the initial scan, and their degree of how out of range they might be. The most stressed organs and potential contributors to that stress. So these are the degenerated nosodes that were scanned. Again, this does not mean that the patient has a breast tumor or lymphatic tumor or a immunocytoma or leukemia. Okay, it just indicates reactivity to these nosodes. So this just shows the degree of reactivity for all of these different issues and some predisposing factors. Additional contributing stressors, items from the most stressed category, this went through and tested different stressors such as chemical, viral, bacterial, geopathic, parasite, a lot of different categories. And so in this particular test patient, the most stressed category was emotions. So as you can see, we have some contributing negative emotions. And these are the BICOM programs that are indicated today. So this is in the order in which they should be performed. However, there is a second report for this that shows a little bit more clearly for the BICOM therapist how we're going to treat. And then the last part shows progressive resolution of the different out-of-range stressors with each progressive therapy. And you notice that there's a positive emotion in there of empathy. That's not a BICOM program, but I'll show you how we use that. Go over to this next tab here, the Select Report under the Elite. Pop that open. And so what we're looking at is the Degenerated Cells Biosurvey Report, and this is the client report. For the practitioners, select Practitioner Copy, and you can print this one and use it for yourself. And you'll see a little different arrangement. So we have just a list of the degenerated cell markers, geopathics, and stressed organs and cancer nosodes. just listed with their corresponding deviation ratio. The out-of-range stress items from the highest stressor category, again listed. And here we have the programs, how to run them in the following order. And step by step. Step 1, basic therapy, as is true for all of the biosurveys that are in the Zyto system here. I put them all to have a basic therapy to run first. Step 2, energetic stabilization, in this case to remove some electrosmog and radiation exposure. Step 3, a tumorous diseases program, so something more specific to the state of having a cancer. And step 4, a specific detoxification or immune support program based on stress category. As I said, remember, this is not a BICOM program, but I'll show you how to utilize it. Okay. This is the step at which you will use the degenerated cells marker vials, and these are run on program 192 in most cases. In some cases, people like to use program 198. It's just a little different amplification and sweep speed, but it's still an all frequencies program. So the way that we want to use this is to put all of these vials together in the input cup and deliver the frequency of them with program 192. Program 192 comes up as a 30-minute program. You can reduce the program length with the controls on your BICOM. And I usually run them anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, but you may want to energetically test that on your patient to see specifically how many minutes to run it. Step number 6 is the unaffected tissue vial. And again, from the Degenerated Cells Test Kit, run it on program 192. So you just put this vial into the input cup. And then step 7, the support and stabilize vials, run on program 192 as well. These are my favorite ones because this is giving the most positive, helpful information to the body to build up the immune system and eliminate stresses of previous therapies. And by default, 5 of these are chosen. If you wish to make additions to this, you can go back into the session log and add more of them into the BICOM therapy if you wish. And you can see from the session log what the deviation ratios or how highly these scored basically, or what the biological preference of the body is for these when you look in the session log. So this is the practitioner report that takes you step by step in how to use the results of the scan in your BICOM therapy. Now, to utilize these if you do not have the Degenerated Cells kit, I do recommend the kit. It's easy, convenient, and not that expensive to have it on hand. But if you do not have it, then you want to go ahead and print that report and take a look at the groupings of these vials. And then how you would use it is you would output the frequency of these into a beaker of water that you would use into the input cup. So to do that, you're going to output the frequencies of certain things. So you select this icon here, output. And it's going to ask you which ones you want to output first. And so since our first step is going to be using the Degenerated Cells marker vials, I'm going to select those. And we have the precursor in with it, and then click Next. So you're going to have, if you have the tower connected, your tower is going to be what you put the beaker of water in front of. If you do not have the tower connected, then you want to use the hand cradle. So you just place the beaker of water in front of the hand cradle, in the front of the fingers, and it will show you on screen where it's emitting. And so you see, as it's emitting, this little blue light that's showing up, and that is just going to be to the left of where the USB connection cable is. That's where you want to place your beaker. So that would be for the first set of 192. For the next set, do the same thing. Remember, the next set is just the unaffected tissues, so we would select the unaffected tissue, and you can see that by the category here, and click Next. And it will emit that frequency only. So you would just take out the previous beaker of water, discard it, rinse the cup, put more water in, charge it, and use that in the BICOM therapy. And then step 3, which is actually step 7 in the biosurvey treatment, you would select the support and stabilize vials. And output those. Now remember, I said that we were also going to use that positive emotion. So the way I like to do that one, again, selecting the output, select that positive emotion, and I like to send this one home with the patients because we can all use that little emotional boost from time to time as an ongoing assistance. I think this makes a huge impact. So we're going to, this is as a balancer for the negative emotions. It's not a negative emotion in and of itself. It's a balancer for the negative emotions. So you can output that into some storage medium that they can take home with them, say a little bottle of water or the mineral drops that they can take on an ongoing basis. Okay, so we've had several outputs sent through this. And let's see, the next thing that I wanted to show you was how, if you wished to add additional things to the balancers, how could you do that? Say if you wanted to add in more of the support and stabilize files to the treatment protocol, then you could just click on the log here, session log on the left-hand side of the screen. It opens it up to the right. We're going to select a step, and that step is, let's see, marker files. There we go, support and stabilize files. So we want to see what that scan result was of the support and stabilize files. Okay, so that opened that up. Now if you wanted to change the order of them, you can. Just click on the category here of deviation range or deviation ratio, and it will show you either from the most negative to the most positive. Click it again and it reverses it. So here are the highest scoring or best balancing items. So it's pre-selected the first 5. If you wanted to add some others, you certainly could. So you could select this one to add in, and it pre-selects here to select items to move to the stressor table, but we want to move it to the balancer table instead because it's not a stress item, it's a balancing item. And then so I'm going to unclick the stressor table and click to move it to the balancer table instead. And I do want this in the circuit, so I'm going to click on the circuit icon here. Okay, so I have one item selected. I selected it to move to the balancer table, put it in the circuit, and click this big blue arrow in the middle. Your screen will go blank for a second while it makes that change, and then you'll see it added over here. So the lowered, I've added it to the top here, lowered resistance right here at the top. So now that's in the balancers. Changes that you've made here within the Elite screen as manual changes will not be reflected on the report because the report is generated right after the biosurvey and it is not updated with the manual changes that you made. So you would just need to remember that you did that or handwrite it into the report. So if we go back to this reports, it's the same one that we generated at the beginning and it does not show the additional change there. Okay, so that concludes the lesson on how to run the Degenerated Cells Biosurvey. If you have any questions, you can reach me by email, and that is resonatehealth@gmail.com, RESON, the number 8, and the letters HEALTH @gmail.com. Thank you.